Hey guys, it's Kevin, another movie for guys. This movie reviewing. I really had no interest in this movie, to be completely honest with you guys. I know I try to go into some movies as optimistic as possible. I really do. Not every movie. There are some movies I just go into and I personally don't think I'm going to like them. Not saying that I want to hate them. I just go into it with a mindset that I don't think they're going to be that great. This happened to be one of those movies, and that movie's a movie that I really had no intention of seeing in theaters, but there was a thing where if you saw this movie in theaters, then you get some free stuff along with like a lanyard and a cup, and the movie was also free, so I decided to see it, and that movie is none other than The Great Wall. Now, let's get into this movie because, as I said, I really had no expectations for it. If you would have talked to me about maybe 5 months ago, maybe I would have been somewhat interested in this movie. When it was supposed to come out in December, when it was slated to come out, then maybe I would have been interested. I would say, okay, it's in December. It's, the epic movie of December, because there's always that one big epic film in December. But that didn't happen. It came out everywhere in December except for America, which is very unusual. I'm not sure why that happened. I'd love to get a story of why that happened, but nevertheless, that concerned me. What also concerned me was just the movie in general did not really look that great. It looked like something that was very much going to put me to sleep. And as you guys know, I'm not a fan of these kind of movies. I'm really not. I mean, these epic type films where you have characters from either medieval times or mythology or just a long time ago, they don't interest me a lot. I find them to be quite boring and very generic, very disposable, just not really that interesting unless they're done right. If you have something like Game of Thrones that has really great characters, oh yeah, I'm all in. However, this to me really did not look like that, and yeah, that's pretty much what it was. The Great Wall, to say the least, is not really that great of a movie. It's not even a good movie. I really did not like this movie very much. I found it to be very ostensibly boring, very been there, done that, and very much just kind of turns into a parody of itself, which I will talk about. But let's get to the plot of The Great Wall, because the plot of this movie in itself is ridiculous. I mean, this is one of the dumbest plots I've heard in a very long time, but I think it's some people might find it interesting. I just find it dumb. Basically, Matt Damon plays this mercenary in China who basically there's this huge sort of battle that goes on, and long story short, he and Pedro Pascal are the last people to survive said battle, and basically they end up encountering the Great Wall of China and basically make it their duty to protect the Great Wall of China, basically, because the Great Wall of China apparently is being threatened by a bunch of monsters, and they need to do what they can to protect the wall, and basically that is the overall plot of the Great Wall. But let's get in this movie, starting off with the cast. The cast of this movie is one of the most unusual casts I've seen in such a long time, because this is a film where almost every cast in this movie is of Japanese descent, or they're Chinese. They're of some sort of Asian descent. They definitely are. There's nothing, most of them are from that, you could definitely believe that they are in China. But some actors in this movie, it's just very bizarre, especially Matt Damon as William Guerin. One of the most weirdest casting choices I've seen in a very long time, and I will say, they do definitely try to make sense of it in the film. He's someone who, he's traveling China. He's obviously not from China, which I was happy about because I was very worried with how that was going to be. But he actually is just a mercenary who's traveling China, and that's about as deep as his character gets. Other than that, this is a very bland role for Matt Damon, which is very unfortunate because he does actually try to make something more of this character. You can tell he really did try to give it his all. He really is trying to give a good performance. The problem is he just doesn't have much to work with here. I mean, so much of the movie is weighted onto his shoulders, and it really does suck because his character in general is just not really there. I really didn't find anything that compelling about William Guerin. He is your stereotypical hero who is just very bland. There's really nothing interesting about him besides him possibly being a mercenary and kind of just, finding his purpose. We've seen this in a million films, and it's done so much better, and here it's really not done that well at all. I really did not find myself to care much about his character. To be honest with you guys, he might be my least favorite part of the entire film just because of how boring his character really was. I really found him to be quite lacking in that regard, and I really was not a huge fan of him, I have to say. However, I will say the rest of the cast actually did give some commendable performances. I really like Jing Tian as Commander Lin Mei, who, she is the one who basically is tasked to protect the wall. And as silly as it is, I actually did like her character. I liked the determination in her. I liked how tough she really was. And I like how she didn't let William try to interfere. Like, William clearly has feelings for her, but Lin, what she says goes. And she definitely is a badass in that regard. I like what they went on their character. Again, very by the numbers, though. And then Pedro Pascal, I liked what he did in this movie, but he just, I don't think was in enough. Like, he was in it, but he didn't really have his own sort of thing going on. He was just kind of to the side most of the time, and he was like, oh yeah, Pedro Pascal's in this movie. I really was not that big of a fan of him. Also, for some reason, William Dafoe's in here. I don't really know why, but he doesn't do shit in this movie. He's just in it. I don't know why he's here. They just had him here, I guess, so people will see the movie, but the cast in general is really not that great. No one really gives that incredible performance, and it's mainly not because of the acting, it's more because of the directing and the screenplay. Which, now let's get to the directing and screenplay, because those are some of the more problematic issues within this film. Because the directing here by the director Zhang Yimou is very unfortunate, because this is a director who directs a lot of Chinese films. He's very famous among China. I heard he's directed some of the greatest Chinese films of all time, especially ones, like The Great Wall. And this one just didn't really work, I have to say. And it's not because I think that he did a bad job directing. I think he kind of lost the potential of this film, because if this was a film that could have been a lot more fun, then I definitely would have enjoyed it. The problem is The Great Wall takes itself way too seriously than it actually should. For me, personally, I think this should have been a film that could have easily just had fun with itself and be stupid and just be a ridiculous fun movie. The problem is the movie isn't doing that. Zhang Yimou took this concept and actually took it really, really seriously, and I don't know why he decided to approach it in such a serious manner. I think they could have easily told this story in a much more fun way, and it really does suck because this movie is so boring, honestly. I was so bored throughout pretty much the majority of this film. Why? Because after the first, 10, 15 minutes, the rest of the movie is just talk with an occasional battle scene here and there, and I really feel the movie would have benefited more if it had a lot more battle scenes. Then I would have actually kept me into the film. Then I wouldn't have actually, wanted to go to sleep as much as I did, because I was getting so, not exhausted, that's not the word, but I was so bored throughout this movie. I yawned quite a lot. I really was not into what was going on, and the screenplay in general, I just did not really find myself compelled by. I thought the story itself is ridiculous. Their story is insane. It definitely seems like something silly. And again, it seems like something that would be, just a fun, disposable film. They could have easily just, had fun with it. Something like in vein of Monster Trucks. I don't know why I'm comparing it to Monster Trucks, but that's an example of a movie that did, a ridiculous concept and actually just had fun with it. This movie doesn't know how to have fun with itself, and it would have been really easy to do. I felt like you could have gotten a lot more fun out of this movie. Matt Damon would have definitely been up for it, so I don't really know why they didn't have fun with it. And the screenplay is just not interesting. The characters are boring. There's not really anything going on with them. They're as archetype as you can imagine. Matt Damon's just the unlikely hero. Zhang Tian is just the sophisticated leader, but also sort of love interest. Everywhere this movie's gonna go, it's so predictable. There wasn't a single thing that happened in this movie that shocked me, and I just could not find myself to get into the story. I was really trying to find something to hook me in, but there was nothing. There really was nothing here that hooked me in. I really was severely bored throughout the majority of this film, and it really is unfortunate, because I can see they tried, especially when it comes to the cinematography, which is incredible. Honestly, I really was amazed by how great the cinematography was, especially for such a mediocre film. The cinematography here is pretty great. I mean, the locations in this movie look fantastic. I'm pretty sure they did shoot in China. Yeah, they actually did shoot in China, which is incredible to see. And the landscapes are just incredible to look at. It is a beautiful film. There's so many great locations in this film. Just the cinematography in general looked great. Even the monsters in the film, I thought looked pretty good. I actually thought they didn't look terrible. They're definitely definitely very CGI and it's noticeable, but they actually didn't look bad. I actually was kind of, wouldn't say I was threatened by them, but they definitely did look somewhat good, and I was impressed by the way the monsters actually looked, which was quite surprising. I was expecting the monsters to look like absolute shits, but they really didn't. I actually thought the cinematography, they did do a good job with, and I was very much into the cinematography. And the action scenes in general, I really did love. There are some really great action scenes throughout this film that are really heightened with tension. The ones in the third act of the movie, it gets very, very fast-paced, and they become very frenetic and just very forgettable. But the first few, I was very much into. I really did love the action scenes here, and really it's because that was the thing that kept me involved, was the action. But there isn't enough of it to really hook me in, unfortunately. The score here is as basic as a score can get, and then the editing in this movie, the first two acts I thought were fine. I thought they were paced fine. You know, they were slow, but they were fine. And then the third act happens, and I don't know if this was like a Suicide Squad situation where there were a bunch of reshoots and things like that, but it very much seemed like a large chunk of this movie was cut out. It really does. I mean, 104 minutes for a movie like this feels very, very unnecessarily short. Like, it feels like it should have been a lot longer. And if the movie in general feels very unsatisfying when it ends, you don't feel like the characters have gone through enough. You don't feel like the story has gone through enough for the movie to end. It just felt like they were left out like a huge chunk of this movie. And I don't know if I'm the only one that got that from it, but I definitely felt like they left out a huge chunk here. And it honestly really did bother me, I have to say. So overall, guys, The Great Wall is really not that great of a film. I really was not into it. I wanted to like it, honestly. I did. Believe me, I really wanted to enjoy this movie. I wanted to find compelling characters. I wanted to find a fun film here that could have just been something that I could have just had fun with, but unfortunately it's not that. It's a hour-and-a-half bore fest that is mostly just a bunch of characters, you know, plotting and talking, and it's akin to Warcraft last year, which, if you know, Warcraft had pretty much the same exact problem. The problem is Warcraft had a lot more action than this movie did. This movie only has about 4 or 5 actual action scenes, and those scenes are very well choreographed and very well done, but they're not enough to keep me into the film. They're not enough for me to say, definitely go see this film. In all honesty, 5 people saw this movie in my theater, and I really don't think this movie is going to do that great. It already seems like this movie is destined to bomb, and that's fine, honestly. I don't think many people care about this movie. I don't really think this movie is going to do that great, and I really wasn't expecting it to be anything different than it was, and it was basically exactly what I thought it was going to be, but that doesn't mean that I think it's a good film. That doesn't mean that there's something good out of it. If anyone goes into a movie and say, oh, that was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and think that's a good thing, that's horrible that you think that. I mean, that's really dumb. You should not like a movie because it was what you thought it was going to be, because it met your expectations. No, you should like a movie because of the way it's presented. You should like a movie because of its story. You shouldn't like a movie just based on, oh, it met my expectations, but this movie did not. This movie did do that, but not in the way I wanted to at all, and in general, this movie is extremely forgettable. It's probably the first movie I've seen this year I'm going to forget instantly after I do this review, and I am overall going to give The Great Wall a 2 out of 5 or a C minus. So over, guys, Mary the Great Wall. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie overall. Left your thoughts on it. If you have seen it, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think many people have seen this movie. If you haven't seen this movie, I'm not surprised. I don't think many people are gonna see it. There are just other things that have come out, i.e. A Cure for Wellness or Newsies, that I think are gonna make a lot more money this week, and especially A Cure for Wellness, that definitely is gonna make a lot of money. But overall, guys, I'm just going to tell us when we have seen, left your thoughts in it. I know China really did enjoy this movie, which I can understand. I heard these movies are very popular within the Chinese culture. I can understand. The movie definitely does pay respect to China, I will say that. But just in general, I really could not find myself that compelled or invested in anything that was going on. But that's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Riverdale, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.